Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about the Vietnam War. So, these are my notes for the Vietnam War. So, the Vietnam War, many people think about it as, it's kind of unanimously agreed on as that the U.S. lost the Vietnam War. And it is one of the longest, most controversial, and least popular wars in American history. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about why did it lose the war like unanimously? Because there was no official statement saying they lost, but why does everybody believe that? So we're just going to be going through important terms. Here are my notes. Okay, so on August 7th, 1964, the Gulf of Tonkin. Basically, after an attack on U.S. naval ships, the U.S. Congress passed a law which basically told everybody that the U.S. was now fully involved in the Vietnam War. And this was done by Lyndon B. Johnson, or LBJ for short. He was an American president who called for this, and he just basically escalated the Vietnam War by increasing military presence over there, when arguably there didn't need to be. Okay, now how did the U.S. kind of tell what was their reasoning for entering the war? That can be summed up in the domino theory. So the domino theory is now discredited, but it was once it was a theory from the Cold War. Basically meant that if one country's communist, all the other countries are going to fall over like dominoes and follow that communist country and become communists themselves. So basically, the U.S. saw, okay, if North Vietnam is communist, then all their neighboring countries are going to be communist, and communist is going to spread. And we know by now that the U.S. is fully against, as far against as you can get communism. So it was basically, all in all, just a way of the U.S. justifying the Vietnam War to the public and its support of the non-communist dictator in South Korea. Okay. Now, like I said, the Vietnam War was very controversial, and there are some really saddening and disheartening moments in this war, like My Lai, which was a massacre. It was a horrific massacre where a lot of people died, and they were unarmed civilians living in a village. So American soldiers brutally murdered women, children, like everybody with no sympathy. So we already can tell that this war, Americans are kind of losing themselves in the true values of what it means to be an American, and they're just have tunnel vision because all they want to do is stop communism, that they're not considering the other factors. And so, like I said, because of this massacre, a lot of people died, and we need to remember those people in history and work to never have something like this happen again. So, nearly a million, just under a million people in Vietnam died. And 1/3 of this number were non-combat deaths, meaning they were more civilians. And again, this is a very disheartening number and another disheartening time to think about in American history, but it is important to not repeat again. So we look at this number and you think, okay, a lot of people in Vietnam died. Why wouldn't we win if more people there died than here? It's more complicated than that. Okay, moving on. Fall of Saigon, also known as the liberation of Saigon, which shows you that winners do write history. Okay, basically the fall of Saigon was the capture of the capital of South Korea by the People's Army of Vietnam, and it is now still under their control. So the Vietnam War was very controversial, like I said, and the public, and like I also said, it was a very long war. So beginning in 1964, the anti-war movement in America began, and the public just began forming protests and outwardly showing their hatred of the war because it was doing no good. And there were so many deaths. So it basically grew into a big social movement in an attempt to pressure the country into stopping the war or limiting the amount of people there. So going through this, in my opinion, I believe that the U.S. Lost the Vietnam War simply because in the process they lost themselves. The government and the leaders like LBJ, they forgot what it meant to be an American and forgot the core values that the country was founded on. And instead, they led down an area of violence in an attempt to stop communism, which I understand. However, it's just so many people died when there could have been a different way to go about that. So even though less Americans died, and in that sense, you could say that we succeeded, not as many Americans died, we fought better or whatever. But like, it's kind of cheesy to say, but their beliefs died for a moment, and they stopped thinking about just all the positive parts of being American, and all they wanted to do was stop communism, and a lot of people died because of it. So thank you for watching. Unfortunately, this was a little bit of a depressing episode, but that's because it's a depressing unit, but we need to learn it to make sure something like this doesn't happen again. Bye.